My parents were out of town. I forget. I think they were in Chicago. I grew up in Minnesota. I think it was something for my dad's work. I was 6, so I don't really remember. But my grandparents were babysitting my sister and I. And I wet the bed every night that my grandparents were there. And when my parents got home, I think my grandma was like, does he always just do this like every single night? And my parents were like, what? My dad was like, he's fine. It's a phase. It's just some silly thing. He was nervous without his parents around. My mom just had a gut feeling. And, took me to the doctor, asked me a few questions. I peed on a stick and they were like, oh, you have diabetes. Got the diagnosis and started kind of with the family education and, sort of like they had like a diabetes boot camp at Park Nicollet in Minnesota that I attended, to sort of learn all of the things that I needed to learn and kind of got me balanced, and that was that. I started working as a professional actor when I was 8. And, as a child actor, I don't mean to be glib, but you're already kind of a burden. It's like they always say, like, if you want your production to go seamlessly, don't work with pets and don't work with kids. So, like, I don't know if it was a conscious decision from my parents, and I wouldn't blame them either way. But it was sort of like, let's just go there. Let's just do the job. Let's not ruffle any feathers. We don't need to and he's newly diagnosed with diabetes. Like, no, it's okay. You're gonna go and you're gonna do your work. It's gonna be fine. My mom picked me up for like a meal break on a long tech rehearsal day. And I administered my insulin for dinner, and I had just gotten a new video game. So I administered my insulin. My mom handed my food back to me. I put it next to me, and I was just lost in my video game. And my mom was driving. And I just started getting lower and lower and lower. I wasn't paying attention to myself. I was in my game. And suddenly I just kind of vanished. And this was my first diabetic reaction. And my mom hands me the glucose tabs, and I can't even open them. And this I remember very, very distinctly. There was a Capri Sun in the car, and my mom just squeezed it. And I started coming to, and my mom was like, what's happened? And she looked back, she's like, you haven't eaten your food, oh my God. And in that, by the time the reaction had happened and I had come back up, all within the drive, we parked the car in the parking lot of the theater, and my mom made the decision of, okay, we are going into the theater and we are talking about this with everyone. Brilliant parenting. I am so grateful for that moment because I have empowered all of my colleagues for my entire career with information about my diabetes. And to this day, have never had a workplace accident of any kind. Workplace lows, of course, but everyone knows about it. And if I need a break, they give it to me. I empower people with information, even if, and especially when they don't ask for it, because my safety is my number one priority, and I'm not sorry about that. A chronic illness is like a lifetime companion. It goes with you everywhere. You have to make space for me, and if you have to make space for me, you have to make space for my diabetes. It is not an option. I'm grateful as well for the fact that I had a career so young because, like I said before, you can have a completely functionable life with a chronic illness like diabetes, but only if you manage it with the utmost care. And so I have had a 23-year career, but that would not have been possible if I was not very diligent as a child, as an adolescent, as a teenager, and now as an adult with my diabetes. And my career and my illness are actually inextricably linked. Like, I was sort of pushed to, or I guess I was inspired to work and get involved in theater because I was diagnosed with an illness so young, and because I was sort of faced very quickly in my young life with this reality that like anything can happen at any time, so grab life by the horns. But the only way that my work can be successful is if I take care of my diabetes. So they actually have been beautifully inextricably linked, and I think that the reason that I take my diabetes so seriously is because I take my career so seriously. And if I want my career to be successful, I have to be successful. And as a diabetic, if I'm going to be successful, my diabetes has to be successful. That's not an option. If I could go back and give younger me advice specifically as it pertains to being a diabetic, I think I would try to focus myself a little bit more on deriving a sense of purpose and pleasure from really dialing in my control. I'm gonna speak candidly. Maybe this will resonate with some people, but my truth is that there are a lot of times where I feel very resentful that I'm chronically ill. Nobody asks to be chronically ill. And while you can live a functionable life, it does take a lot of work. And I think as a younger person, I really let that resentment in. I'm not gonna say I let it define me, and I didn't let it infect me to the point that I just gave up, because I have always been relatively controlled. But as an adult, and with therapy, I've been able to find like a real sense of pride and achievement from opening up that Dexcom stat sheet and seeing really consistent control. There's this great saying, when you're young, you care what other people think. When you're older, you don't care about what other people think. But when you're truly wise, you realize no one was thinking about you at all. So you think about you. Derive your sense of achievement, accomplishment, being cool on how well you take care of yourself. If I would have done that, I think I would have spared myself a lot of that resentment and earned myself more control. Mitigating those opportunities to wallow in self-hatred, which is a big part of being chronically ill, like the mental aspect of holding your illness, making managing it a source of deep pride instead of this like obligation or this chore. I wish I would have learned how to do that much sooner. As an actor and a performing artist, my body is my vessel. If my body doesn't work, I can't go to work. I'm currently in a Broadway show. I wear a Dexcom, and as a consequence, a very positive consequence, I can have my phone open on my dressing room table, and every time that I come off stage, I can look at my phone and know exactly where I am and exactly what I need to do or may need to do to get through the show. That option was not available to me when I was diagnosed. And now, a handful of years later, that option is available to me. That makes my ability to do what I do, to live, to pay my bills, so much easier. I rejoice in the advancements that have been made, and if that happened in that span of time, I can't even imagine what could happen when I'm on Broadway 20 years from now. Diabetes is part of my life, but it impacts my livelihood. I need to be as functionable, and I need as much help and assistance from all kinds of programs and people, but also from technology and advancements as I can get my hands on to do what I do. And that is why supporting an organization like Breakthrough T1D is not only so important, but is tangibly and actually currently benefiting people who are working professionals and chronically ill. And we are now in the future that was described to me when I was a child who got diagnosed. The future from here looks incredibly bright if we can keep going.